Welcome to the place where we learn about and learn from the leaders in our field who are powering human creativity. I am Aaron Dworkin, and this is Arts Engines. Thanks again for joining me here on Arts Engines. Today's guest is Donna Walker-Kuhne, who is founder of Walker International Communications Group, which is a boutique marketing, press, and audience development consulting agency. Donna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Well, so I am obviously so excited. As Donna knows, I will share with the audience, I have had the distinct honor of being able to know Donna and experience her work and have Sphinx and so much of the work that I've been involved in benefit from her expertise and being able to partner with her for literally decades, not to date us. And so it's just extraordinary work that you do in the field. Certainly you're acknowledged as really the nation's foremost expert in audience development and really so much relating to the arts and arts organizations, which we will talk about, especially as many, and I'm sure many in our audience are thinking about how they're building DE&I, how they're building their own organizations to be anti-racist. And so we will definitely talk about that. But I figured just to start off, could you kind of just share, kind of the 30,000-foot view of this work that you've done in the field for so long?
Absolutely. Well, I'm actually celebrating my 42nd year as an arts administrator. Can you believe that?
My gosh, wow. It's amazing.
I'm very proud to say that because I've been on the cutting edge of developing this field, particularly for arts administrators of color. And so I began my work, as you know, focused on audience development, really looking at who was missing from the audiences. And that was with the Dance Theater of Harlem and our national tour, and not seeing Black people in the audience, and then crafting strategies to make that happen. And then, of course, George Wolfe inviting me to lead community affairs at the Public Theater, where my job description was to create an audience that looks like a subway stop. So in New York, that's quite diverse. And so I was able to really do that, translating George's vision, not only at the Public Theater, but Shakespeare in the Park and on Broadway. And that began my work on Broadway. And then, of course, and then I started my company in the early 2000s, consulting for many, many different organizations, moving audience development forward, which is, audience development is a transactional experience. It's a targeting a demographic to have them to purchase a ticket or to come to a free event. So that's the transactional component of it. But then as I started working with the New Jersey Performing Arts Center in 2012, I realized that, we need to really focus on creating space for communities to be able to have access to the arts, not so much a transaction, but how do they experience the arts in their communities where they live in a way that is accessible to them. And so that's when I started to really build on community engagement separately from audience development. They run in parallel lanes. And so I was fortunate to be able to develop and create the Department of Community Engagement at New Jersey Performing Arts Center. And that has been a model, I think, for how arts organizations can build the infrastructure to be able to engage in audiences in a long-term fashion, not necessarily with an expectation that they purchase a ticket, but that they have access to the work that you do. And then after the murder of George Floyd, definitely my business changed from being marketing focused and sales focused to really looking at how do we develop the kind of culture within our arts organization so that we do not subscribe to that kind of behavior of looking at systemic racism and how do we uproot that. So fortunately, again, at NJPAC, our leadership was all in, and it was just a question of what would you like to do? How do you want to do this? And I thought educating our community about action steps that we can take through a social justice lens, focusing on people of color, would be a great way to start and that's what we've been doing now. We're entering our third year of Standing in Solidarity, which is our social justice initiative that we have. So my work has evolved from audience development, community engagement, to social justice, and of course, diversity, equity, inclusion training, because that's very much a component of the consulting that I do.
Totally. No, absolutely.
You can do that when you're around for 40 years.
I'm telling you. And this is what I found is so extraordinary about your work is that not only are you really always at the cutting edge and the forefront of things that are empowering arts organizations and ultimately the arts and connecting them with people and reflecting all of the people that comprise our nation, but always evolving what it is that you're doing and always innovating. And it's truly amazing. And so also going on that front, ASU Gamage, who's one of our wonderful creative partners here and all of that, is doing a host of that work, help us co-curate for this show and kind of taking into that sense of building an anti-racist arts organization. And so there are, I'm sure, those who are in our audience who have either are already taking steps to try and do this work, or are looking and saying, we'd like to, but how do we start? What are the key things to begin with? Could you kind of share what are some of at least those core initial steps are that organizations should be taking? Yeah.
First of all, it's understanding what it means to be anti-racist. That's a big concept. So what does that mean, especially in America, where we shy away from racism and we take that, in ways that prevent us, I believe, from seeing opportunities. And so I think the first step is looking at how we dismantle behavior and culture and the attitude of racism, which is judging a person based on what they look like, their identity, where they come from, and deciding that they're less than. And because I made that decision, I'm going to treat you a certain way. And that's what we want to dismantle, that behavior, that sense of entitlement and privilege that I can do this, that this is okay. And certainly not in the arts. It is absolutely not okay in the arts. And so what we want, the end goal then, is that we have staff, community, a board that feels valued, respected, and can speak your truth. So you can bring all of you to the space to work. You don't have to leave a part of you outside because they're not going to understand. So creating that holistic environment requires a very, very honest and transparent examination of what are my beliefs, what do I think about people of color, people, LGBTQ community, women, people who I really haven't thought deeply about. What is that premise? And then realizing that within that are biases, and that we exert that through a microaggression behavior. And so those are the things we want to dismantle. So it's a journey. It's a journey, realizing there's no instant pill. It's not, I woke up today, tomorrow we'll be anti-racist and we're all good. No, this is a forever endeavor. It will last for a very, very long time because we're talking ultimately about changing behavior. Right. And that takes time.
And it can often be so hard, and obviously there's often these entrenched cultures at organizations, and including arts organizations, which is so, you would think in the arts that we would be better, but sometimes especially some larger organizations, that can be tough. A curious question, right? So sometimes I've been either at organizations or I hear people talk about, when people are talking about, okay, here are some of these things that we need to do relating to anti-racism or whatever, and then there begins to be this pushback, and people who say things along the lines of, well, I have to just watch everything I say now, like the standard, I'm not racist. I've never done anything that's racist. So this is like not for me. And what do I have to double check everything I say, right? How do you advise organizations who say, look, we have people as part of our constituencies, maybe especially on our board or even on our staff or our audiences who are saying things like that? How do you advise them?
First, we have to commit to having courageous conversations. And so we listen to that point of view. And then we will point out, this is what I say. I said, by the mere fact that you said that you're not racist indicates that you haven't really given that any thought as to what that means. And so rather than get stuck on what that word feels to me, let's shift from how do we dismantle the behavior that comes with that kind of thinking. And it can only start with the leadership. It has to start from the C-suite because that's the example, that's the model. And so when you get the commitment from the C-suite, your executive directors, CEOs, CFOs, when they commit, your chairman of the board, and there's an alignment that this is the culture and behavior that we want, then there's the environment for the staff to be able to be reflective. And of course, those statements are going to continue to come out, and we have to be ready to address them. Such as, well, what is your belief about this situation? How do you look at the murder of George Floyd? What do you think about this violence against people of color? What do you think about how our Chinese community has really suffered being labeled as the China syndrome as a result of the coronavirus? So what is your thought about that? What do you think about women's reproductive rights? Whether or not you feel it's correct or not, what are your thoughts about that? How do you celebrate our LGBTQ community? How are you inviting them, celebrating them, acknowledging them? Are you using their pronouns? Do you recognize their pronouns? So there's a list of ways that we can just start to have them question. What I don't believe is that it has to be a confrontation where, there is this threat that, if you don't do it, then you're out or something's wrong with you. I believe in dialogue. I am a firm believer that when we can honestly listen to each other from a respectful platform, that's where we'll see the change. So I wear my cloak, my warrior cloak, but it's one that comes with peace and respect, as opposed to really being very violent. I don't believe that that is the way to change the dynamics.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And just hearing you, I'm thinking of so many organizations where they followed this approach. It would help. And I especially loved how you said, starting with that alignment between the chair of the board and the CEO, and setting the, kind of environment and the culture. There is so much that those two individuals can do in terms of leading this type of change. Absolutely. So, well, this is so fantastic. I could talk with you for hours about this. Unfortunately, we're just about out of time, but I always like to ask of all my guests, that especially this type of work, and especially work in terms of anti-racism, can sometimes be tough. There are sometimes tough conversations or organizations, and there's a lot of leaders in our audience where they might have tough days. And just wondering for you, in those challenging situations, where do you turn for guidance, for inspiration, for strength, for resilience during the toughest of times as a leader?
That's such a wonderful question. And I try to keep that at the forefront of my day, every day, because you're absolutely right. We have to refresh and celebrate the joy. So I am committed to integrating joy in my work. So it's not separate. It's not something I pick up at 6 o'clock. No, there's joy throughout the day. That is my commitment to myself. And how I do that is based on my religious practice. As a Buddhist, a very proud member of the SGI USA, I'm able to twice a day refresh my life condition. And so because this is my mission, this is not my work, this is my mission, that's a whole different kind of perspective. And so every day I get to fulfill my mission. Why am I here? It is to do this at this time. It is to bring about this reckoning, this revelation, through my own experiences. So that brings me joy, knowing that I can do that and refreshing myself through my prayers. But also, I'm very fortunate to be part of a wonderful community of friends and family who all share these same beliefs. And I do things daily that make myself happy. Much of it is going to arts performances. So going to dance and theater, the museum, all these things I do to refresh myself. I read, as you know, I write. My second book will be out in November, Champions for the Arts. And so all of these efforts really help to allow me to keep in high life condition and approach my work with joy. So then those results are framed within that kind of celebratory environment.
It is just truly extraordinary. I feel honored to have been able to know you for so many years and to benefit from your expertise and your knowledge. I certainly encourage everyone to pick up the new book. Donna Walker-Kuhne, you truly are one of the arts engines who is powering human creativity in our world. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you.